Basketball is like jazz. There's a jazz musician, a guy. God, what's his name? If you know basketball, you know who I mean. Kenny G. God, glad I remember that. People know who he is.
Welcome to Kenny's G League. You already know this is the only podcast all about the Rip City remix. Today we're talking about Bryce McGowens. We're talking about the regular season record since our last episode. We're going to talk a little bit about some social media business that, I don't know, might be a little bit interesting. And we're going to talk about the All-Star break. But first, the numbers. So since our last episode, the Remix have gone 2 wins and 3 losses, which included a game against the South Bay Lakers where LeBron James Jr. had a career-high 31 points. Oh no, he actually had his best game in the G League. And unfortunately, it had to come next to the Remix, which is a real bummer. As a longtime LeBron appreciator, but LeBron hater, you kind of hate to see that. That puts the Remix at 5 wins and 6 losses so far in the regular season. That's good for 9th place in the Western Conference. Now let's take a look, like I said, at the numbers from what we're seeing from the team, and maybe we can compare a little bit to the Blazers. So all year together, meaning the tip-off tournament and the regular season combined, let's look at some shooting records we're seeing from the team this season. So far this year, as we've mentioned before, very few percent of the points from the team is coming from the mid-range. For the year on the whole, tip-off tournament and regular season combined, 1.9% of the team's points overall are coming from the mid-range jumpers. 1.9%. To compare that to the Trailblazers, who obviously they're not lighting it up from the mid-range either. The Trailblazers get 6.7% of their points from the mid-range. So neither team, is playing like a early 2000s Kobe Dirk Nowitzki game, but certainly the Remix are shooting less from the mid-range. Now, the more interesting thing, I think, to me is 2-point percentage versus 3-point percentage. So the field goal attempts for the Remix are broken up like this. The Remix are shooting 52.3% of their shots from 2-point range and 47.7% of their attempts from 3-point range. So pretty darn even. If we go just off the tip-off tournament, it was even more even, nearly exactly a 50-50 split from 2-point to 3-point field goal attempt percentage. Very even. The Trailblazers here are 59.7% of their field goal attempts are coming from the 2-point range, and 40.3% of their field goal attempts are coming from 3-point range. So the Remix are certainly kind of taking that approach and expanding it, right? Nearly 50% of their field goal attempts come from the 3-point range. And that is, something we've seen throughout the year so far, which I think, that's when I kind of do start to understand a little bit kind of this conversation that's been going on about the NBA and do they have a 3-point shooting problem? In my opinion, no, they have a 3-point making problem. That's where the problem is. If teams were lighting it up from 3-point land, I think it would be pretty exciting and no one would really have a problem with it. It's just boring when they don't go in, which is kind of the case for all shots. But at some point, maybe you are shooting too many if you have players that aren't capable of it, right? Like on the Remix this year, let's take a look at who is lighting it up from 3-point range. The Remix as a whole on the season are shooting sub 33% from 3-point land. Not fantastic, but it does make it kind of obvious to see. when they're shooting the three ball well, you're going to win more games. That kind of goes without saying at this day and age. On the team, during the tip-off tournament, Alex Reese was shooting 44% from three-point land. Cameron Tyson, who was an excellent three-point shooter in college, was shooting 41.6%. And Bryce McGowens was shooting 35.1%. Isaac Nogues-Gonzalez was shooting 37.5%, but he hardly ever took a three-point shot. I think he took altogether, let me see if I can figure that out. Altogether, Isaac Nogues took 8 3-point attempts on the season. So I'm going to kind of throw that one out. He made 3 of 8. So 3-point attempts are a big part of the team's identity. Unfortunately, so far, it hasn't really been their strength. They're darn near the bottom of the league in 3-point percentage, though they do have some players that can definitely shoot it from out there. So I think that's kind of part of what makes the G League tough. You have players cycling in and out of the team. We'll talk about that in a moment. And it's kind of tough to build a lot of consistency around that, because you might have a game plan kind of predicated on one thing, and due to the shifting nature of the G League season, some nights you might have players that kind of match that system available, and other nights you might not. So with that said, let's look at some players that have come into the remix recently, and we can talk about who's new and who's not new. An old face for the team is our buddy from the Rip City Remix, Ryan Rupert. He's played a couple games for the Remix now. A little bit of a tough start for him, returning to the Remix in his 3 games. His field goal percentage is not exactly what you'd like to see, 37.5%. His 3-point percentage is, am I reading this right? 0? Oh no, 0, which is shocking, because we know from last season that he was really lighting it up from the 3-point line, shooting around 40%, playing really well. And I think that's part of the difficulty. But he's played 3 games for the Remix, kind of trying to get some reps up since he is not playing so much right now for the Trailblazers. He's come back for 3 games. I would expect as the season goes on, depending on what happens with the Blazers trade deadline shenanigans, we're either going to see a lot more of Rupert on the Trailblazers, or probably continue to see him for some occasional games on the Remix. I always like seeing him play just because I'm a big fan of what he could be for the Blazers. Let's take a look at some other guys that are new to the Remix. Let's see. The Remix also were involved in a couple trades. They received just on January 27 here, Craig Randall II. He is not currently in the league. He's playing overseas, which doesn't necessarily mean that he will not ever join the Remix. We had a couple players last season that were traded to the Remix, were playing in a different league, and once they were able to come over to the U.S., they joined the Remix for kind of the tail end of the year. So that could happen with him, but, certainly no promises. And Tyrell Roberts, he joined the Remix recently. Really interesting just to kind of see his name pop up. He is fresh to the G League. I think he was on the Summer League roster of the Warriors, if I remember correctly, and was kind of in the mix to make the Santa Cruz Warriors G League roster. Ended up getting cut, and he was acquired from the Remix on the 22nd of January. He played a game. I was at that one. No name on the back of his jersey because he was acquired so recently. And then the very next day, he was waived, January 23rd. I thought that was odd. And then the day after that, January 24th, he was acquired again. So I don't know if that's a paperwork thing or if there's something a little more interesting going on there. I'm going to try to get some info on that this week, just because I think those kinds of things are interesting. Anyone that is truly hustling like that to make it in the league is interesting to me. Whether the case with him is that he's on the team on, the equivalent of a one-day contract, or whether he's here long-term and this is just kind of the beginning and there was a weird clerical error in the paperwork. Could be either thing, really. I'm going to look into that because, like I said, anyone that's hustling that hard to make it in basketball is pretty interesting to me and worth noting. Can't really fall through the cracks if you're playing well like he has been for the Remix and really trying to make it in basketball. The Remix also added Dmitro Skopintsev, who is a center. He went undrafted. Last, he was playing for California State, and before that, Ukraine. He's played now, 5 games for the Remix, kind of logging some big minutes, 27 minutes a game. So far, he's putting up 9 points a game, and 7 rebounds. So, he's really getting center minutes. If nothing else, I have to imagine that it's nice to have another guy in the rotation for Portland that in practice can kind of go up with Donovan Clingan. Another 7-footer does not hurt in a practice situation. And honestly, there aren't that many super tall guys like that in the G League. So I think it always helps if the parent team kind of has a guy like that they want to be able to emulate in a way, or even just go up against in practice, to have someone like that on their G League team. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing here with Skopintsev. And he's been playing pretty decent, actually. I'm excited to see what he does through the rest of the season. Now, let's talk about Bryce McGowens. The big news that came through the other day, you probably heard that Scoot Henderson is going to be competing in the 2025 Rising Stars game during All-Stars weekend. But you may not have heard that Bryce McGowens is also playing in the Rising Stars game at All-Star weekend. That is pretty cool. We're going to talk about what that game is, because honestly, if you're anything like me, I did not know what the Rising Stars game was. I kind of got sick of All-Star Weekend several years ago, and I said, forget it. I'm not watching All-Star Weekend anymore. These guys don't really try. I'm not going to watch that. I'm not going to watch anything except basically the 3-point contest, because that one's usually pretty fun, especially when the Blazers have had some guys in the past compete and even win. So I just tuned out to most All-Star stuff. But now I'm bought back in for the Castrol Presents Rising Stars game. Castrol, why is that the sponsor for the Rising Stars game? They're oiling up the players to lubricate the NBA? No, that can't be right. Anyway, they're the sponsor of the Rising Stars game. What is the Rising Stars game? I didn't know what it was. So the Rising Stars pool consists of 10 NBA rookies, 11 NBA sophomores, which that's going to be Scoot Henderson and Toumani Camara, and 7 NBA G League players. The 21 NBA players will be drafted into 3 7-player teams. So you have 3 teams made of NBA players, and then you have 1 7-player team made of G League players. But that is a little bit of a lie this year, because that 7-player team includes Reed Shepherd. He's an NBA player. He was the 3rd pick in the NBA draft, but because he's been playing in the G League this season, I guess he gets to be included in the NBA G League player pool. Whatever. So the Rising Stars draft, that's coming up in a few days here on February 4th. They'll decide who's on those 3 teams of non-G League players. Once that gets all settled, during the All-Star weekend, February 14th, Valentine's Day, that's when they do this tournament, the Rising Stars game. So there's 4 teams. Team A faces Team B. Team C places Team D. The winners of those face each other, right? The winner of Game 1 will meet the winner of Game 2 in a championship game. Now, the scoring is a little unique in this tournament. For each semifinal game, the winner will be the first team to reach or surpass 40 points. For the championship game, the winner will be the first team to reach or surpass 25 points. Right? So you got a little mini 4-team tournament. I think that'll be cool. What is interesting about this further, actually, is that the winning team of this tournament goes and faces or competes in the NBA All-Star Game. I have to be honest, I'm actually interested in this. I swore off the NBA All-Star Game, but now I'm interested, okay? So, we could end up in a situation where Bryce McGowens is facing LeBron James in the All-Star game. I mean, I would watch that. I swore off the All-Star game, but I think I'm going to have to watch this one. It's actually kind of interesting, and maybe it'll get them to compete. I can't imagine that anyone wants to get beat by G League guys in the NBA, but that is exactly what I'm rooting for. Okay? I want the Rising Stars to absolutely stomp whoever is in the All-Star game. I think that would be really fun. So I think that'll be cool. I think that's going to be really fun. And if nothing else, even if it doesn't work, at least they're trying something for the All-Star game. Because I haven't watched the last, several, because I just got tired of it. And if nothing else, Bryce McGowens easily deserves to be in the Rising Stars game. He's averaging 29 points a game, 3.6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 stocks, steals plus blocks. He deserves to be in there, and I'm going to hope that he is able to go on an amazing run in All-Star Weekend. I think that would be awesome. What a better way to reinvigorate the All-Star game. I think that'll be cool. Last thing I think we're going to talk about here, the G League on Blue Sky. What's going on here? The Trailblazers are on Blue Sky. The Trailblazers are there. Our favorite reporters are on Blue Sky. NBA reporters are there. No G League. No Rip City Remix. No John Jensen. No Reggie. Rip City Reggie. Where is everybody here? We're all leaving Twitter. We're all hanging out on Blue Sky for obvious reasons. But nobody's there. Chris Haynes is there. Chris Haynes is posting there. Shams is posting there, and he starts every post on Blue Sky like he's, your great uncle. And it's like, from Shams, and then his tweet. Everybody's on Blue Sky except the G League. So come on over there. We're having fun over there. It's a silly little website where people are posting silly things about basketball. Get over on Blue Sky. All right, I think that's where we're going to leave it today. The Remix are in 9th place in the West. Bryce McGowens is playing in the Rising Stars game. My favorite accounts are not joining Blue Sky for some reason that I don't understand. That's where we'll leave it. Next week, I will be back. Hopefully, I'll have a guest with me next week so we can get back to a little bit of a conversation. And like I mentioned before, we've got the Handfruit Nation Summit coming right up. Grab a ticket to that. It's going to be a blast. And I will be looking forward to chatting with you on the next episode of Kenny's G League. Thank you very much for listening.